Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best day of the week. It's Star Wars Talk Tuesday, and it's the most special Star Wars Talk Tuesday of the year because it's also Star Wars Embargo Lifted Day. That's right, the embargo for Star Wars The Last Jedi got lifted today. So it's Star Wars Talk Tuesday, and it's the day that the Star Wars embargo got lifted. It's just overall, it's a really good day around here, and I'm so excited that you've joined me here today where we just talk about our favorite thing in the world, and that, of course, is Star Wars. So I'm so glad you guys are joining me here today. Now, here's how today's show is going to go. I've picked out 5 topics from emails that you guys have sent in to me. How do you get a topic or an email on the John Campea Show or here on Star Wars Talk Tuesdays? You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. And in the subject line, this is very important, put SWTT in the subject line. Once again, put SWTT. That stands for Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. Put SWTT in the subject line, and as always, keep your emails to 90 words or less. Now, once we get through these 5 topics, we're going to go to the second part of the show where I'm just going to take your live comments, thoughts, opinions, and questions. Now, I have a feeling a lot of you guys are going to want to ask some questions about Star Wars The Last Jedi. I will answer as many of your Star Wars The Last Jedi questions as I can, but understand this, I will not give any spoilers. So don't ask me, hey, John, does Luke do this one specific thing? And I won't answer that. But if you want to know, like, hey, John, how was Laura Dern? If you want to know about the music, or if you, whatever, if you've got questions and you're not seeing some answers to in reviews, I'm going to put it over to you guys. 2 ways to get questions on. The primary way is to use the super chat. I will answer every super chat that comes in. And if there's still time near the end of the show, I will go to Twitter, and I'll put up the Twitter if we have time for that near the end. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, let's get into question number 1. And question number 1 today comes to us from Bjorn Grina, who writes, started watching your content back before The Force Awakens came out, and I've been a fan ever since. Well, thank you so much, Bjorn. With reviews coming out today for The Last Jedi, I'm struggling with whether or not to watch or read people's non-spoiler reviews. I fear that I'll enjoy the movie less if I see the reviews before I see the film on Thursday night. I know this is subjective, but I want to know your thoughts. All right, well, thanks a lot for the question, Bjorn. And, like, I am one of the people who put up my review. My review for Star Wars The Last Jedi went up a little bit earlier today. And I'm going to be doing, I want to just get the word out about this, I'm going to be doing an all-spoiler review on Sunday. Well, John, why are you doing it Sunday instead of Friday or Saturday? Because I want it to be an interactive spoiler review where you guys talk with me about it as well. And the only way I can do that is I give you guys a good amount of time to see the movie. So you guys got Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to get out and see the movie. And then Sunday, we're going to do a spoiler review. I'm going to do a full spoiler review, and then I'll take your guys' comments and questions. We'll get all into the details about the film because we've all would have seen it by then. So keep your eye open for that. Now, should you be able to read non-spoiler reviews? Yes, except for those fucking clowns over at Variety. I love Variety. Don't get me wrong. You guys, if you watch my show, you know I quote Variety all the time. I have a lot of respect for Variety. But what the hell, guys? Like, their regular review, and a regular review in a trade should, by assumption, be non-spoiler. They give away so many key things. So, big warning. I put up this warning on my social media a little bit earlier. Do not read Variety's Star Wars The Last Jedi review, because they spoil so many important things. And I'm reading this, I'm like, and I've seen the movie, and I'm like, what the hell? How does this guy have a job? First of all, you need to fire this critic. Second, you need to fire whoever his editor is that approved this thing to go and be published. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. I can't understand how a professional on that level, and like I said, I'm a big fan of Variety. I love Variety, but I cannot believe for the life of me that they let that happen. Anyway, that's a side rant. So, I move on. But I'm kind of the wrong guy to ask, because I'm the type of guy that I can know almost everything about a movie, and it doesn't change for the better or for the worse my enjoyment of the movie. To me, the movie is about the telling of the story, not the details of the story. You know what I mean? So, and The Last Jedi is a good point of that. I knew a couple of key spoilers. You guys know I've been talking about, I knew one mother of all spoilers, and I knew a couple of other things too, and a bunch of other things I didn't know. But it didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie whatsoever. Again, to me, the movie is about the telling of the story. It's not about the details of the story. And, you know, hey, guess what? Going into Titanic, I knew the Titanic sunk. Didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie. But everybody's different. That's just me. That doesn't mean you need to be that way. So, should you be avoiding reviews? I think it's still okay to read reviews on 99% of the sites. Avoid the brain-dead clowns who put out the reviews over at Variety. I'm not complaining about their review skills. Their review skills are great, but I'm still flabbergasted that they were so idiotic to put some of the stuff that they put in their review. I mean, they gave some of the big surprises in the film away. I'm disgusted. Absolutely disgusted by them right now. Anyway, can you tell I'm worked up about this? Anyway, so I move forward. Even if you're a little bit more sensitive to these things, I think for the most part you're safe to read or watch a lot of non-spoiler reviews, just to hear if you know what other people are thinking about the movie. However, if you're the type of person that you want to go in totally clean, then by all means go in totally clean. Avoid the reviews and stuff like that, except my review. I mean, no matter what, you still watch my review, right? Anyway, but you go in totally clean if you want to. That's totally fine. Again, I'm kind of a bad guy to ask that sort of a question to, just because I don't have any problem knowing spoilers and watching things. So to me, it's not really that big of a deal. But to each their own, you do what is right for you. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Tampa Movie Guy, who writes, based on your comments about Carrie Fisher and her presence in The Last Jedi, do you think Lucasfilm purposely misled fans when they said that Episode 9 was really meant to be Leia's movie? All right, well, thanks a lot for the question, man. And look, I'm going to answer this in such a way that I am not in any way, my answer that I'm about to give in no way reflects whether Carrie Fisher is still around at the end of The Last Jedi or whether or not Carrie Fisher is not around at the end of The Last Jedi. The question is, watching the movie and seeing how Leia is used in the movie, some of you will remember that a while ago, you know, shortly after Carrie died, it was revealed from Lucasfilm that, man, they're in a bit of a pickle now because Episode 9 was really meant to be a Leia, very centric Leia film. Do we think they were lying about that? No, not at all. There is nothing that happens in this movie that either points to them being insincere by saying that, or the opposite. There's really nothing about that. We will never know what state the movie was in or what their plans fully were for Episode 9 at the time that Carrie died. We'll never know. So we have no reason to believe that Disney would just come out for no reason to say, oh, gosh, that's a shame because we were going to really focus on Carrie and point. Now, there's no reason for them to say that. That doesn't really do anything. So no, I have never believed that they were misleading us about that. And nothing in Star Wars The Last Jedi leads me to believe that they either were or weren't. So I'm just left with they had no reason to lie about that. So I don't believe for a second that they were misleading the audience about that. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next one is very pertinent to today. Dylan Trost writes, like so many, I had been waiting for The Last Jedi for years. Days before its release, also like many, I had almost the entire film spoiled while playing Battlefront online and while looking at things having nothing to do with Star Wars. May sound overdramatic, but this is literally heartbreaking. Is there anything we can do to stop this in the future? More restrictive premieres? Well, I mean, hey, look, that's a great question. And again, and you're talking about premieres, look at that handsome devil. Look at that handsome guy. What a sharp looking dude that guy is. Anyway, should they be? Look, and we're seeing spoilers flying all over the place. Like, I've been all over tons of different sites today, a lot of different forums, a lot of different chat areas today, and just kind of seeing what's going on. Whole lot of fake spoilers out there. Ton of fake spoilers, but I've also seen real spoilers peppered in here and there with it as well. And it does frustrate me as somebody who goes to these early screenings that some brain-dead moron, number one, walks out of those screenings where, you know, even Rian Johnson, the director of film, got up at the premiere and basically pleaded with people, hey guys, look, please don't spoil this for people. Do not let the details of the movie get out. Please, please, please. And there's just kind of an implied understanding that if you get invited to an event like that, you don't go out and start running your mouth, right? You don't go out and start running your mouth. Clearly, you got some idiot who took this privilege for granted, getting to go to this event, came out and started running their mouth to people. And then some people heard that and they decided to go online, I'm going to ruin people's day because I'm a pathetic little bitch and I've got nothing else better to do with my life. So, I'm destined to flip fries, for the rest of my life. If you know the reference, let me know. So then they hop online and have nothing better to do with their pathetic little virgin existences and type in spoilers to try to ruin other people's days. Pathetic losers, whatever. But it does raise the question then, should they be doing, what can the industry do about this? The only thing I can really think of, and this isn't an answer, because look, you even got clowns, like this clown over at Variety, putting in blatant, look, and I'm sure he's a very, very nice guy, but for today, he's a clown, all right? I've had days where I was the clown, but I'm a nice guy. I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but today he's an ass clown, all right? Writing in all these things, and he's the guy from Variety. You're supposed to be able to trust that dude. That dude should be smart enough to know you can't write in some of the details that he put in his review for people. I mean, that's just idiotic. But outside of that, the only thing I can really think of is back when I was starting to get into this business and I started going to press screenings, they don't do this anymore, but there were a lot of screenings I went to where I actually had to sign a document. It was an embargo. I had to sign a legal document that was basically then a binding contract between me and the studio that I would not run my mouth about what I see in this movie until a certain day. And I don't know. Maybe at these premieres, that maybe they have to start getting everybody who comes to sign a legal document that basically says, hey, if you run your mouth and we find out you run your mouth, we get to sue you for $2 million. A fool is going to think twice about running his stupid mouth. If he has his house, his car, and everything else on the line. Is it really worth it to blab my lips to Bob here and tell Bob that Darth Vader is Luke's son? Is it worth it for the risking of my house, my car, my boat, my kids, whatever it is they're going to lose, whatever they put up for collateral? Maybe then. I mean, that seems like a harsh thing to do. So I'm not even saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just saying it's the only thing I can think of. But look, as long as there are stupid imbeciles in the world, this is going to be a danger. And that's why when it comes to stuff like this, like here we are online right now, but I mean, if you want to guarantee you stay spoiler free, too bad. There's nothing you can do to guarantee it. If you really want to increase your chances of staying spoiler free, the only thing I can really think of that you can do is stay offline. The premiered on Saturday night. Maybe you need to stay offline for 5 days. Not check your phone, not go on Twitter, not go on Facebook. Don't go to your favorite chat sites, whatever. I mean, maybe that's the only way. I don't know. It's sad that the few little ass clowns have to ruin it for everybody else. But, as long as there's air in the air, there's going to be little bitchy ass clowns who have nothing better to do except masturbate all day and spoil things online for people. I mean, that's just it. So it's a tough thing, man. It's a really tough thing. I feel your pain. All right, let's go on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Carnell, who writes, given your thoughts on Lucasfilm not recasting Carrie Fisher, I agree with you. If there is a behind-the-scenes doc on the depths of their decision, could your opinion be changed? Where is this? Could your opinion be changed? Yes. Could your opinion be changed? Sorry, it looks like I had a hiccup in the stream there for a second. Could your opinion be changed? Personally, your argument is so strong. I think no, bring it. Okay, so understand this. I believe this question came to me before the premiere. So this question came in before the premiere. So this person doesn't know what happens to Leia. In no way am I going to give this answer. My answer in no way reflects whether or not, again, Carrie Fisher is still around at the end of this movie or whether or not she's not around at the end of this movie. But it's a really good question that you guys know how passionate I have felt about the notion that, hey, if Leia is supposed to be in 9, recast. And I've made my argument about why they should recast. I believe it's what Carrie Fisher would want. I believe it's the only true way to honor Carrie Fisher is to pick up the ball for her that she can't carry herself anymore, and we will carry that ball across the finish line for her. Don't worry, Carrie, we got your back. That's the only way to really honor her. But that's my opinion. And I'm not the one in charge. And you know what? It's not as simple as I make it. I understand that. And there's some very passionate feelings for one side of the argument. Yes, they should recast her. There's some very passionate feelings on the other side of the argument. No, they should. And look, and I'm not mad at anybody in this argument because I know everybody deep down, they all hold whatever opinion they have because it's what they feel is the best way to honor Carrie. I think clearly the best way to honor Carrie, the only way to honor Carrie, is to, if Leia's supposed to be in 9, recast her. To me, that's the only way to truly honor her. But I'm not going to get mad at somebody who doesn't hold that same opinion because I know that their motivation is the same thing. Their motivation is to honor Carrie. So we may have a different opinion, but we're not going to be mad at each other because both of us have, our root motivation here is to honor Carrie. So that's fine. If somebody who's very, very passionately believes that the only true way to honor Carrie is if Leia is supposed to be in episode 9 to have somebody recast her, if they then, on the Blu-ray of The Last Jedi, had like a 20-minute special thing about contemplating the future of Leia, and they call it that, and they really go in depth, and for all I know, maybe Carrie's daughter says to them, it would destroy me to see Leia recast. It would destroy me as Carrie Fisher's daughter. It would destroy me to see that. And then I'm going to go, okay, don't recast. Yep, I get it. So maybe there are things out there that could change my mind. Absolutely with that. But in the absence of that, I still feel the way that I feel. All right, let's move on to the final emailed in question today. And the final emailed in question today comes to us from Gerson, who writes, my question is, in an interview, Rian Johnson says that he loved the Old Republic games, but the new trilogy is totally new stuff. So, if the new trilogy isn't about the Old Republic, we will never get some content about the Old Republic? Will Disney ignore all the fans? Does Disney care about the fandom? All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And, Gerson he's just like a lot of people out there. We've been very excited about the possibility of getting something based in the Old Republic. Some people want direct story connection with the Old Republic stuff that's in the Star Wars Legends stuff. Some people like me just want it in the era of the Old Republic and do whatever you want to do. I don't care if you follow some of the old story stuff. I don't care about that at all. I mean, some of it's very cool. And if you do it, great. If not, I'm fine. Just do it in the era of the Old Republic. I would love that. But here's the thing. And this is why I bring this up. So I understand you really want it. And I understand you probably talk about it a lot. And I understand you probably got a group of friends that probably talks about it a lot. But here's the thing. The majority of Star Wars fans don't care about the Old Republic. I'm not saying they dislike the Old Republic. I'm just saying they don't care. I mean, like if you put out an Old Republic thing, I'm sure they'd like it. This notion that all the fans are demanding. No, they're not. There's some of us. Sure, there's some of us. But the majority of them, I was brought to fall in love with Star Wars by my mom. My mom's the one who introduced me to Star Wars. And when I go home, each year now, when I go home at Christmas time, since the Star Wars movies have been coming out in December, it's a new tradition that when I go home, I take my mom to see the newest Star Wars movie. Actually, it's really kind of ironic. Last year, true story, I was home over the holidays. Ann and I went back to visit my parents and my siblings. And we had planned this day that I was taking my mom and my dad to go see Rogue One. And we're in the theater, and they have that scene at the end of Rogue One. Spoiler alert for those of you who've not seen Rogue One. You're not watching a show called Star Wars Talk Tuesdays if you haven't watched Rogue One. Anyway, so you know at the end of Rogue One, they have the Princess Leia appearance, right? So that's pretty much the last thing you see in the movie. My mom and my dad and me and Anne, we were in Stony Creek, Ontario. We walk out of the theater, I turn my phone back on, and all I see all over my phone is Carrie Fisher had passed away. And that's when I found out. I literally had just walked out of the theater. Now, I had already seen Rogue One before that, but I was in the theater watching Rogue One, and she passed away. And I just saw her. I mean, it was just one of the craziest things anyway. So my mom is the one who introduced, I don't know, sorry I went off on a tangent there, guys. But my mom is the one who introduced me to Star Wars. My mom represents probably most of the people out there in the world who call themselves Star Wars fans. Because remember, not all Star Wars fans are hardcore Star Wars fans like you and me. So my mom is probably good representation of the majority of Star Wars fans out there. She doesn't care. If you do an Old Republic thing, great. If not, that's fine. It's just, we have to be careful. And I bring this up on the John Campea show all the time as well about other things, like about comic book movies or about whatever, is that just because I and my particular circle of friends all care about this one thing, there's a danger of fooling yourself into thinking, well, that means everybody thinks this. And that's not the case. There are not millions of people banging down the doors of LucasFilm demanding an Old Republic movie. I want it, and I do think we're going to get it. Look, just because Rian Johnson isn't doing one with his new trilogy, that doesn't mean Disney is never going to do an Old Republic-based storyline. I think they will at some point. Of course they will. It's going to happen someday. But just because they're putting it off does not mean that they don't listen to the fans. It's just that we as fans have to understand that the majority of the fans don't think the exact same way we do. So we just got to keep that in mind, because to a lot of Star Wars fans, the Old Republic is just something that got referenced once in the original trilogy. Right? They didn't play the Old Republic games. They didn't read those non-canon novels. You know, they're just Star Wars movie fans, which is what the majority of Star Wars fans are. So we just got to be careful about how we convince ourselves or delude ourselves into thinking what me and my friends think is what everybody thinks. We just got to be cautious about that. So I just want to, but don't worry. At some point, they're going to do Old Republic stuff. Don't you worry. It's going to come. All right, guys, we've come to that part of the show now where I'm going to go to your live questions, because I'm sure a lot of you guys, my goodness, there's already a whole ton of comments coming in here. Okay, so I'm going to go over to your live stuff, but before we get to that, it's that part of my show where I need to take a short 1-minute commercial break to do my admittedly, cheap plug for the one thing that keeps the lights on around here, which is my Patreon campaign. So here, check this out. We'll be back in just 1 minute. For those of you who have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that I made the decision recently to leave the corporate overlords. I no longer wanted to work for corporations. I wanted to be an independent content creator. And the only way I've been able to do that is by the support of my Patreon supporters. So what I would like to do is to ask you guys who watch my shows, who spend any amount of time with me every single month, to consider going over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. There you'll get all the information about what exactly does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of mine? What does being a Patreon supporter do for helping to make sure that shows like this one and all the other shows I do here on my channel can actually be produced? And on top of that, what benefits are there to being a Patreon supporter? And maybe if you guys can check that out, if you decide you want to be one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I'm just happy that you guys have decided to be here today and be a fellow movie fan and join us in the conversation. So go and check out the website, see if you want to become a Patreon supporter. And now, let's get back. All right, guys, and a special thank you to all of you who are already Patreon supporters. Again, you guys are the ones who keep the lights on around here. Lots of benefits about being a Patreon supporter. We got audio-only podcasts of the John Campea Show and Star Wars Talk Tuesday and Weekly Hero, as well as a few other things. Go and check out the page and you'll see what the benefits are. So thank you to all you guys who are already Patreon supporters. All right, with that out of the way, let's go on now to the live questions that are coming in, and we are going to start off with Spiderstorm Films, who writes, "Hey, John. Not asking about spoilers, but do you think the fandom will be divided based on the movie's ending?" No, I don't think so. I think everybody's going to love the ending of the film. I really do. Sorry. no movie has everybody love its ending, but I think the vast, vast majority of the fans are going to be really enjoying the ending of the film. And there's certainly going to be some discussion about the ending of the film, but I think you're going to see most people, I think, are going to love it. Paul Skywalker Rain writes, The Last Jedi runtime thoughts. Did it hurt or help the film? Runtime, look, the movie is the length it's supposed to be. You don't start off and go, and Rian Johnson knows this, you don't start off and go, I'm going to make a 2.5-hour movie. No, you make your movie. Make your movie. And Rian Johnson did that. Remember, Rian Johnson talked about how his first initial cut was over 3 hours long. And a lot of the stuff was great, but he said this wasn't right for the movie, though. So he cut out a bunch of stuff, comes in around the 220 mark, I think, 220, maybe just a little bit north of that. And it's the right length. This movie is the right length, in my opinion, at any rate. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. Aussie Nerd writes, I am so excited to go see it 50 times. I have seen it twice. I have got my tickets for opening night now as well for Thursday. Me and Ann are going to the AMC Burbank 16. We're going to be watching it again there with a couple of our friends, and I am super stoked to see it. I probably won't see it 50 times in movie theaters, but I will be going to see it an awful lot. I bet Movie Pass card holders are going to be getting a lot of use out of their card this month. All right, next one comes to us from Trevor Brooks, who writes, I pre-ordered my tickets in October, and I am stoked. You know, I got lucky. I pre-ordered my tickets in November, and like earlier November, but I was still able to get opening night, first screening tickets. I mean, and I got 4 of them together. So I got really lucky. I got super, super lucky. Because I've been talking to some people that ordered their tickets like a month in advance, and they got it opening night, but they got it like front row nosebleeds. I actually got lucky and got like 4 pretty decent tickets, so I'm pretty happy about that. Let's see. Aussie Nerd writes, have you heard what is happening with Patreon? Nope, but I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, but at any rate, besides, this is Star Wars Talk Tuesdays. We're going to focus on Star Wars topics. All right. Dwayne Gracias de Oliveira writes, John, another big fan from Brazil. I love Brazil. Did the trailers really misdirect with any of the storylines? And I think you forgot earlier to review Laura Dern's and Gwendolyn Christie's performance in The Last Jedi. Well, I put up, one of the things I forgot to mention in my review was that as far as I can remember, unlike Rogue One, pretty much everything that's in the trailers is in the movie. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that was not in the movie that was in the trailers. Which again makes it like almost completely opposite from Rogue One, because there was a lot of stuff in the Rogue One trailers that was not in the movie. But I think pretty much everything there. Laura Dern, Laura Dern's a legend. She's an icon, and I thought she was okay. It wasn't her fault because the character was okay. As far as Gwendolyn Christie, all I'm going to say is don't expect the movie to be based on Phasma. That's as much as I'll say. I'll go as far as that. However, I did feel like I enjoyed Phasma, and I love the Phasma novel, by the way. I did enjoy Phasma a little bit more in this film than in The Force Awakens. So I'll say that. So without going into any spoiler detail at all, I'll just say that I enjoyed Phasma a little bit more in this one than I did in The Force Awakens. But again, don't expect her to be the center of the film, all right? So that's as much as I'll say about that. Thanks a lot, Dwan. I really appreciate that. Chris Steffies writes, thoughts on Mark Hamill's performance? Sounds amazing. Look, I said it in my review earlier today. Hamill gives the best performance he's ever given as Luke. Probably the best performance he's ever given in his career for anything. He was wonderful. I mean, he went all in on this. And there were some from an acting point of view, there were a couple of very challenging scenes to play right, and he played it right. I mean, seriously, Mark Hamill knocked it out of the park in this movie. He really, really did. Tyler Clean writes, if you could only see one cut, would you rather see the 3+ hour cut of The Last Jedi or the pre-reshoot cut of Rogue One? Thanks, and keep on keeping on. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Tyler. Honestly, my honest answer is that I have no interest in seeing either of them, because neither of those are the movie. That 3-hour cut, that's not the movie. That is not The Last Jedi. The pre-reshoot stuff for Rogue One, I'm not interested because it's not the movie. If I was forced to have to watch one, I guess probably the Rogue One stuff, just for interest's sake to see how much difference there was between the original cut and the reshoot cut. That one, I would probably have a little bit more interest in that, but remember, the way my mind works, and that's not to say this is the way your mind should work, I'm just saying this is the way my mind works, is that it doesn't matter what went on behind the scenes, what ended up on the screen is the movie. So that 3-hour thing is not the movie. I have no interest in it. No interest whatsoever. Now, don't get me wrong. If Rian Johnson popped it up on YouTube, out of interest's sake, would I watch it? Sure. But it's not the movie. Only this is the movie. And that's just kind of how my mind works on that. But if I had to pick one, I'd go with the Rogue One just to see the differences. All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. Trevor Brooks writes, you assume modern journalists are professional. Look, 99% of them are. I know it's really popular and the fun thing to go, oh, all these journalists are just... No, don't buy into that nonsense. The vast majority of the journalists are professional, very professional. And then you get the odd one that sours it. But the problem is, here's the thing. When you get this mob mentality, you know, one or two people do something wrong, they go, see, journalists don't know what they're doing. It's like, you know, just go home. Just go home. So yes, they are. They are professional, the vast majority of them anyway. But hey, it's like anything else. Look, the vast majority of the doctors are excellent, wonderful human beings, but you get the odd idiot. The vast majority of firefighters are heroic, amazing superhumans, but you'll get the odd one that's an idiot. I mean, you do that for anything in life. That's the truth. So professional journalists are no different than that. Taylor Hardiman, sorry about that, Taylor, writes, Patreon supporter and fan of 6 years here. Well, thank you so much, Taylor. Was Phasma used better in The Last Jedi than she was in The Force Awakens? Cheers, mate, and have a great day. I'll go out on a limb and say that, yes, she was used a little bit better. It's not significant, though. It's not significant, but it is an improvement. And I think most people will probably agree with that it is an improvement, and it's a little bit more significant than her role in The Force Awakens. So that's about as much as I'll say about that, because I want to be very, very careful I don't get into spoiler territory here. All right, let's see. Aussie Nerd writes, however Leia was left at the end, was it good and respectful? Yes, I think the way Leia was handled in the film was magnificent. It was magnificent. Both from the filmmaker's point of view and from Carrie Fisher's point of view. And I mentioned this in my review earlier today, is that Carrie Fisher saved the best for last. It was by far her best performance. And I loved Leia in this. And if you remember, I was not thrilled. I had no problem with it, but I was not thrilled with Carrie's performance as Leia in The Force Awakens. I thought, okay, yes, she's there and she's playing Leia, but I wasn't thrilled with it. And this has nothing to do with the fact that she's passed away, nothing like that, because that doesn't affect me when I'm just watching a movie per se. But she was great. Carrie was great in this movie. She really was playing this character, and I really appreciate the way she was handled, both by her and by the filmmakers. Riley Johnson writes, what would you rate The Last Jedi out of 10? I don't do that anymore. I do not rate scores out of 5, out of 10, out of whatever. I don't rate scores anymore, because we live in an idiotic 10 and 0 society. We live in an era where everybody's like, if something's good, it's a 10. 10, 10, 10. Everything's 10. If it's good, it's 10. If even if it's remotely good, it's 10, 10, 10, 10. And if something is something you don't like, it's a 0. Everything's 0, 0, 0. Everything's 10 or 0. And I just got so tired of, like, to me, a 7 is a really solid score. Because that's 3 points away from perfection. And I never give things 10s. I've given like 7 10s in my life. So a 7 to me is really solid. But I just started getting sick and tired. I'd give a movie a 7 and go, oh, 7, so you hated it. Why'd you hate it, John? John, why'd you hate that movie? You only gave it a 7. That means it's not very good. That means it's not worth our time. I'm like, no, 7 means solid. It's 3 points away from perfect. It's good. So I finally, after years and years and years of giving scores and realizing, you know, what's the point of a scoring system if that number you give means something different to every single person? You can give something an 8.5, and there are people out there who think, oh, 8.5, that means it sucks. If it's good, that means it's 10. If it's pretty good, then it's 9.5. I mean, so what's the point? I just finally got tired of giving numerical scores because it's like, what's the point? I say something's good, I give it a 7.5, and I got people, why are you bashing on this movie, John? It's like, you know what? Just go finish your beer and go home. I mean, there's just no point in it. So, sorry, Riley, I do not give scores out of 10. I just say I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was wonderful. I think most people are going to love it too. All right. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there, guys. Next question comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, better Star Wars spoof, Spaceballs or Family Guy Star Wars episode? You know what? I really like the Family Guy Star Wars episodes. I think Robot Chicken's Star Wars stuff is better than the Family Guy's Star Wars stuff. I think they're both great, but come on, nothing touches Spaceballs. Nothing touches Spaceballs. Spaceballs is now forever the best there is, the best there was, the best there's ever going to be. Spaceballs is the Brett the Hitman Hart of the Star Wars spoof universe. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way right there. So I will go Spaceballs for sure. Duan Garces de Oliveira is writing back and says, I will have seen the movie 5 times by Sunday. Freak, no, I'm going to have probably, by Sunday, I'll probably have seen it 4. And I really love it. So if you like it and you're going to go see it, soak it in, man, because the reality is these movies are only on the big screen for a finite period of time. And who knows when you're going to be able to watch that movie again. See, some people laugh at me when I go back and watch a movie 7 or 8 times or something like that in a theater. But I'm like, you don't get it. Like, to me, there is nothing beats. I don't care how big your home theater system is, whatever. Your home theater system sucks compared to an actual movie theater. Doesn't matter. Oh, but John, it's 4K and I've got these 8 surrounds. It doesn't matter. Your home theater system sucks compared to a real movie theater. There's nothing beats it. The massive screen, being in a room with 300 other strangers laughing and cheering, feeling excited, nothing beats the movie-going experience to me. It is the best. Anyway, that's just how I feel. So I would tell people to think, John, you're crazy. Why are you going to see it like 5 times? Because when this movie leaves theaters, I may never get a chance to watch this movie this way again. It may never happen. I may never have that chance again. So if I love that movie, damn right, if I've got the time, I'm going to go and enjoy that movie the best way you can enjoy it on the big screen in a movie theater with an audience, with a big thing of popcorn and a soda, and just enjoy the hell out of myself. I'm going to do that as often as I can. Because that's just the way I kind of look at it. But that's just me. Let's see. Ben Rayner is writing, just want to say, may the force be with you, John Campea. Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate that. I'm just going to grab this quick. I appreciate that, Ben. Thank you so much. Brimk70 writes, what does it mean to be an episodic saga film? Well, I mean, in the terms of Star Wars, the saga is the main storyline. So we're talking about Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi. Like Rogue One, while it is connected to the saga, it is not the saga. Han Solo, while he's a character that is connected to the saga, that movie's not going to be part of the saga. In terms of Star Wars, when we say the saga, we're talking about episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and if you really want to count 1, 2, and 3, I suppose you can do that. Anyway, that's the saga. So that's what that kind of means when we're talking about it in Star Wars terms. I hope that clarifies that. Trevor Brooks, and I just lost his thing. There he is. Wait, no, where Trevor Brooks are? There he goes. What is this offline you speak of? I'm not quite sure, Trevor. Christian Alante writes, do you think Rian Johnson, the director of the Last Jedi, can set a trilogy in the far distant past, not call it Old Republic, to explore a new group of Force users, not Jedi Sith? Yeah, sure. Look, the beautiful thing about the Star Wars universe, and I say this every week, is the fact that it doesn't just span hundreds of thousands of worlds. It spans thousands of years of time. And there's so many time eras and so many stories to tell. So without going to Old Republic, Could Rian Johnson still go back, like, say, 200 years and tell different stories? Absolutely he can. And we'll just see where he actually ends up. Great question, man. I appreciate that. Eric Hopkins writes, fourth Death Star in The Last Jedi. Blink twice for no. You know what? I should be able to answer this, no problem, but just in case somebody gets upset with me, I'm not going to answer that question, okay? I'm not going to answer that question just in case somebody decides that that's a spoiler, even though it's fairly obvious, but whatever. So I'm not going to answer that. But thank you for the question. I just want to be really protective of people here. You know me, if they put it in the trailer, I would tell you and I would talk about it. But, you know, there's nothing in the trailer about this, so I can't answer that. But thank you so much for the question. All right, Trevor Brooks writes, I know movies based on Knights of the Old Republic are unlikely, but I seriously think seeing the destruction of Malachor IV by the mass shadow generator would be one of the most amazing things ever seen in a movie. I mean, it'd be a great scene, but Trevor, I mean, like you and I both know, you don't make an entire movie around one scene, right? And look, if they feel that they have the right story to tell, and they feel they have the right characters and the right progressive narrative that they can go into, hey, maybe they'll do it. Absolutely. But, I mean, you don't build it around one thing. And I know you're not suggesting, oh, just make this movie because I got to see this scene. I mean, the scene would be pretty spectacular, but it would just be a scene, right? It would just be a scene. I mean, it may come off kind of as lame as the Republic homeworlds being destroyed in The Force Awakens. I love The Force Awakens, but I didn't like the way they handled that per se. So could be great, could be lame, whatever, but I think we all agree you don't build a movie around one scene. And I wouldn't say that it's impossible that this movie gets made. I would not say that at all. Amongst the core Star Wars fans, it's a pretty beloved story, which could spark some ideas over there at the LucasFilm story group. So who knows? I just say, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying don't bet against it necessarily happening, Trevor. All right, next one comes to us from Rar Nation, who writes, Hi, John. I am an aspiring film pundit and watching coverage of the premiere. I thought to myself, don't worry, you'll be there someday. How did you feel when you went to your first Star Wars premiere? Well, geez, man. I mean, let me tell you, my first Star Wars premiere, where is it? It is right here. Star Wars, The Force Awakens, world premiere. This is my badge that I got. I keep all these things, by the way. I have a whole collection of premiere badges, but I keep my Star Wars ones separate here. Going to the first Star Wars world premiere that I had ever attended, I mean, seriously, I can't even put it into words. It was a dream of mine. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I've told this story before, but my earliest childhood memory is my mom watching Star Wars with me. That's my earliest childhood memory. And then I have no memories after that for about 3 or 4 years before I have my next earliest memory. Star Wars has been a part of my life my whole life. My first pet was a cat that my parents let me name Luke Skywalker. Like, my life was really focused around Star Wars. And so then to be there, and not only that, but to add to the specialness of it. Remember, the first Star Wars movie premiered at the Mann's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. The Last Jedi, or The Force Awakens premiere, I was sitting in that same movie theater. The same movie theater that they had premiered the original Star Wars in. So I'm sitting there in this theater. I remember it was a few minutes before the movie started, and I'm sitting there with Anne, and they had this tribute to the original premiere playing on screen before the movie started, and I'm just soaking in the history of it. Like, walking the red carpet was great. Meeting all the people from the movie there, that was great. Hanging out with Kevin Feige and talking with him at a bar, that's great. I mean, all that was wonderful, but it was sitting in that theater, the same theater that the original film premiered in, and I was just overwhelmed with this sense of history and feeling this thing, Star Wars, crossing generations and tying generations of people together. You know, my mom loved it, and now my mom's a grandmother. Not because I have any kids, but my siblings have kids. And you know, it's just something I just felt the history of it. And sorry guys, I could go on about that all day, but it was just the most amazing, incredible experience I think, you know, from a movie fan perspective that I have ever had in my life. I don't think anything's ever going to top it. Unless, you know, J.J. Abrams gives me a call and says, John, I want you to be an extra in Star Wars Episode 9. That would top it. I will say so much that that would top it. But it's going to take something on that level to top it. It was the most amazing experience for me. Anyway, thanks a lot for the question, man. Now we go on to Yasir the Magician writes, will we get a lot of Vader references? I'll say this, because I can think of at least one in a trailer. There are Vader references. That's as much as I'll say, but I can get away with saying that because I remember we saw at least one of them in the trailer. So there are Vader references. I can't go into much more detail about that, or else again we're risking getting into spoiler territory. But I think I'm safe to say there are Vader references in the movie. Let's see. The next one comes to us from Cameron Trost, who writes, the lore I know is the movies and games. Is there a Jedi that truly embraces the dark side but uses it for good? That story really intrigues me. I can't think of any. I mean, I know there's a couple of, for instance, Legends stories where, like, there was a series of stories in Legends where Luke actually goes to the dark side, but his initial plan for doing so was to do something good with it. And it was so many years ago that I read that. I can't even remember it exactly. But anyway, that's Legends stuff now. It's not canon. But I remember that. Other than that, I really can't think of it off the top of my head. Like, we're not talking about a dark side person who turns good. We're talking about somebody who embraces the dark side with the intention of doing good with it. I mean, look, even Anakin, or not just the intention of doing good, but then actually does good with it. Because Anakin himself is somebody who turned to the dark side out of a motivation of wanting to save his wife's life, right? But he didn't end up doing good. He ended up committing a lot of mass genocide. That's bad, by the way. By the way, bad. Mass genocide, bad. Taking the last piece of lasagna, mass genocide, both bad. So anyway, I can't think of any Force user off the top of my head. Maybe if somebody brought it up to me, I would go, oh yeah, of course that one. But off the top of my head, I can't think of any of them off the top of my head. That would be an interesting story though. But it might also go contrary to everything we know about the nature of the Force. So I'm not really sure about that. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Brendan Mills writes, was it good enough to warrant kissing Mark Hamill? Well, hey man, I'd kiss Mark Hamill anyway. You know what's funny? When Ann and I were leaving the premiere, I can't remember if I told this story this week or not. When Ann and I were leaving the premiere, we went out of the one exit and we went to the limo pickup area where the limos come and pick you up. And who's standing out there? It was just me and Ann, Alan Horn, president of Disney, Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, Lawrence Kasdan, writer of Empire Strikes Back and the Han Solo movie, and Mark Hamill. Oh, and then Adam Driver came walking out. Well, and Ann and I are just like, and we're just standing there for like 5 minutes, like with these dudes. It's like, woo. Anyway, and if Mark Hamill had allowed me to, I just would have given him a kiss just because he's Luke Skywalker. So there we go. But yes, his performance is good enough to warrant a kiss. Absolutely. Let's see. By the way, guys, if you have not sent in a super chat yet, we're getting close to the end of the show. Please, no more super chats. Do not send in any more questions. All right, because I want to make sure I get to all the ones that we have here. Let's see. Chris Steffies writes, was Hamill the standout in the film? How was his performance? His performance was amazing. Was he the standout? See, it's tough to say because there are some really good performances in this. I loved Adam Driver in this movie. And Kylo Ren in this movie is fantastic. Rey is fantastic. Leia is fantastic. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll say Luke was the standout. I mean, they're all great. That's not to diminish any of the other roles. But I will say, yes, Chris, that Mark Hamill, his performance as Skywalker in this movie was the standout performance in the movie. I'll go that far. And by the way, Kelly Marie Tran, who plays Rose, you're going to fall in love with her. You're going to fall in love with her. She's the new character in the series. And I think you're just going to adore her and fall in love with her. Anyway, thanks a lot for the question. Sadi Salahudin writes, hey, John, longtime fan. Thank you so much, Sadi. While I dislike the prequels, I do think Revenge of the Sith is kind of unfairly judged. In my opinion, it's a big improvement over the other two. Your thoughts? Look, I will say this, and this has been my line on Revenge of the Sith. I find Revenge of the Sith to be the least offensive of the prequels. That's as far as I'm willing to go. That Revenge of the Sith, I will not use the term as the best of the prequels, because best infers positivity, but I will say that I do find Revenge of the Sith to be the least offensive, and probably has the most redeeming qualities in it out of all the prequels. So I have to be forced to watch it, but if I had to choose between watching Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, or Revenge of the Sith, I'm picking Revenge of the Sith to watch, because there's at least some good stuff in there that I can really enjoy. But I mean, that's a little bit unfair. Each of the prequels has some good stuff. Like even the Phantom Menace, I love the lightsaber duels, and I know a lot of people hate on the pod race. I love the pod race. To me, the pod race is cinematic glory. I love the pod race scene. But so to me, they all have some redeeming qualities to one degree or another. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, more respectful to past actors, Paul Walker in Furious 7 or Carrie in The Last Jedi? Well, here's the thing. They are different things. Because in Paul Walker's final Fast and the Furious movie, which he didn't survive the completion of that movie. Remember, Carrie didn't die halfway through filming this movie. Paul did die halfway through filming the Fast and the Furious movie. So they actually went out of their way to do like a tribute to Paul in the movie itself, which I get. But you could do that because, again, you had to complete half the movie without Paul. So you could work that in. Carrie had completed her shooting in the movie. Her shooting in The Last Jedi was already completed by the time she tragically passed away. So they're two very different situations that were handled very differently. I'll say this. Both I felt were handled with great respect. The Fast and the Furious situation with Paul Walker went a little more over the top, but that's because they could. They had to shoot half the movie without him. But I felt like both of those scenarios were handled with great respect. That's the best way I know how to answer that question, Ben. Thanks a lot for the question. Okay, Mega Movies writes, what character in the expanded universe that's not been introduced in the movies would you like to see in a movie? You know, there were a couple, but then they did get introduced, at least in canon, like in Rebels and stuff like that. Let's see. I mean, the big one of all time, obviously, was Grand Admiral Thrawn. But even though he's not in a movie, he is in the Star Wars canon now. So that was obviously the big one. The Uzang Vong as a threat race from beyond the Outer Rim. That could be an interesting thing. I know that's not a character, that's a race, but that could be interesting as well. There's a couple of characters from the X-Wing series, from the Rogue Squadron series. I guess I'll just go cheat and I'll say a race and I'll go the Uzang Vong. So that's what I'll go with for there. All right. Next question comes to us. This one comes to us from Chris Steffies again. How is Kylo Ren's arc? His storyline in this is great. It really is. It is one of the big, strong parts. The Kylo Ren and Rey story arc is one of the strongest things about this movie. It really is. Other than Mark Hamill as Luke himself, I'd say it's the next big highlight of the film. So I think you're really going to enjoy Kylo Ren's story arc in this one. I really do. Aussie Nerd writes, Force Awakens is in my cinema the day before The Last Jedi. That's a great opportunity, man. Remember, we were just talking about you never know how many more opportunities you're going to get to watch these movies you love the way they're best enjoyed, which is in a movie theater on the big screen with the big speakers and an audience. Man, take advantage of that. Unless you don't like The Force Awakens, then don't do it. But if you like The Force Awakens, take advantage of that, my friend. Let's see. Riley Johnson writes, John, you're the best. May the Force be with you. Thank you so much, Riley. I appreciate that. And may the Force be with you always. Aussie Nerd writes, is it better than the holiday special, man? It's so funny. Ann and I went to this street festival maybe about 2 weeks ago here in Burbank. And we went into this one shop that has really cool oddities and some collectible stuff that we'd never seen before. So we go into this one shop that's on the strip of the street festival. And on the TV, Ann's going, what the heck is that? Is this like a spoof? And I turned around, and on the big TV in the shop, they were playing the Star Wars Holiday Special. And I had to then explain to Anne, nope, this is the real people. So wait a minute, is that actually Mark Hamill? Yup, that's actually Mark Hamill. They actually made this. And we just stood there for a few minutes watching this thing. And I have not made her sit down to watch it, but I think maybe when we go home for Christmas, I think we're going to sit down and I'm going to have her watch the Star Wars Holiday Special a little bit. Thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's see. Just a couple of questions left here. Brimmick70 writes, so is it possible to add to the main story pre-Phantom Menace? What episodes would those then be in the saga? I don't think that they would, no, because really the saga, well, I will argue quite correctly, by the way, that Star Wars is not about the Skywalkers. There is an argument to be made that the saga is, or at least it has been, about the Skywalkers. And you can make the argument that really then the saga begins with the discovery of Anakin Skywalker. So anything you make before that would probably not be considered saga. It's all semantics, really, when it comes down to it. And it all depends on how you choose to use the semantics here. There's no hard and fast rule. I just think amongst Star Wars fans, it's generally accepted the saga is the main core story. And then things like Rogue One, Han Solo, if there's an upcoming Obi-Wan movie or anything else, those would be considered anthology films. Then you got the saga. So I think that's just how people would mostly look at that. All right, Gerard Denis writes, the nun creatures on Acto, what are they like? They're great. I'm not going to go into detail about what they are, what their function is, or anything like that, but we did see them in a bunch of the publicity shots, so I can talk about it. But those creature things that are like dressed like nuns, they're really good. They're really, really, really good. And I enjoyed them. A small part in the film. They're not a major plot point or anything like that. They're much like the porgs in that way. They're not a big part of the film, but the part that they're there, they actually add to the film quite a bit. So I enjoyed them a lot. But I cannot tell you what they're all. On Sunday, full spoiler discussion. We can talk about everything, but that's as much as I'll say about that right now. Let's see. Chris Steffies writes, what would be your ideal Rian Johnson trilogy? None. I have no ideal. No ideal. Whatever he wants to do is the movie I want to see. I don't want to contaminate what he's going to do with what I think would be a good idea. I just want to see whatever it is he's going to do, man. Whatever he's got in mind, that's what I want to see. That's the ideal. So I'm not going to contaminate either his mind or my own mind by saying, you know what it should be? It should be this, when I have no idea. It's really up to him and what he wants to do and what his writing partners do. But that's how I'm looking at it. And that is my honest answer on that. Thanks a lot for the question, Chris. 2 more questions to go and we're done here. EHERO Andrew writes, does Luke still have, I think you mean Luke, does Luke still have his lightsaber from Return of the Jedi? Cannot answer that question. Just can't answer it. Cannot give a straight answer to that question. Sorry about that. Let's see. Mega Movies now writes his last question of the day. Does Poe and Phasma have more to do in this one? Poe, no. Phasma, yes. Poe, no. Phasma, yes. Again, no details. That's coming up for the spoiler review on Sunday when we have our big open spoiler discussion. But Poe does do a little bit more in this movie, I believe, than he did in the first one. And Poe does a little bit less in this movie than what he did in the first one, I believe. And Phasma has a little bit more to do in this. Not game-changer differences by any stretch of the imagination, but just a little bit. Really, the highlight stars of this one are, Snoke, Kylo, Rey, Leia, and Luke. I mean, that's really where the meat of this movie happens. That's the best part. Again, I said this in my review earlier. I know they tried to do something really great with Finn and Rose. They tried to do something great, but it did not work for me. They went all out too. Wait till you see the movie. They go all out in this like little adventure that they go on, and they went all out for it. They tried to do some very, very cool things. They rolled the dice. They took risks. But that's the thing about taking risks. We always say we want our filmmakers to take risks. When you take risks, sometimes the risk will not work. And this was a case where it did not work. So Anyway, that's just my thought on that. Okay, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of Star Wars Talk Tuesdays, the best day of the week. I am so excited about Sunday, when we can actually sit down and maybe we'll go like an hour and a half instead for the special video we'll do on Sunday, because I want to go into all the details. I want to talk about everything. I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on every single little detail about this movie. I think it's going to be a great discussion. I'm looking forward to it a lot. But hey, you don't have to wait till Sunday. Come on back tomorrow for the John Campea Show. Of course, that airs at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every day, Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays and Sundays at 9 a.m. And check out all my other videos as well. Remember, guys, we have now over 100,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. I cannot believe we got here this fast, but we've got room for a lot more. If you're not a subscriber to my YouTube channel, go ahead and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to this channel. Also, make sure you click the thumbs up button, leave a comment below, and follow me on social media simply at John Campea. And go check out that Patreon page and see if it might be something for you. And if it's not, totally cool. I'm just glad you're here being a Star Wars fan with me. All right, guys, that'll wrap it up for me. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.